Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. So this is a pretty major update for Medicare beneficiaries who've been struggling to afford GLP-1 medications like Wegovy or Zepbound. CMS, also known as the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, has officially extended the Medicare GLP-1 Bridge Program through the end of 2027. And for eligible seniors, that could mean access to these medications for a flat monthly copay of around $50. Now, there's a lot of confusion online about who qualifies, which medications are included, and whether this is actually part of Medicare Part D coverage. So in this video, I want to break down what the Medicare GLP-1 Bridge actually is, who may qualify, which medications are included, and some very important limitations people need to understand. First, let's talk about what this program actually is. The Medicare GLP-1 Bridge is a temporary CMS demonstration program designed to provide access to certain GLP-1 medications that are used for obesity treatment and weight reduction. Originally, this was supposed to be a short-term solution beginning in July 2026, while Medicare worked on a longer-term model called Balance. But because the Balance rollout has been delayed, CMS has now extended the Bridge program through December 31st, 2027. And that extension is important because traditional Medicare Part D coverage has historically excluded medications prescribed strictly for weight loss. So this Bridge program is essentially acting as a workaround to provide temporary nationwide access while Medicare figures out long-term coverage policy. One of the biggest headlines here is the expected $50 monthly copay. And honestly, that's a huge deal considering these medications can easily cost over $1,000 per month without coverage. But there's something important to understand. This program does not work like standard Part D drug coverage. CMS says the program will operate through a central processor outside the normal Medicare Part D payment system. That means participating beneficiaries won't be relying on their individual drug plan to determine pricing for these medications under the bridge. Instead, CMS is basically creating a separate temporary pathway to process approvals, claims, and pharmacy payments. So while many articles are describing this as Part D coverage, technically it's a standalone demonstration connected to Medicare beneficiaries, not traditional Part D formulary coverage. Now, this is where things get a little more specific. Not everyone on Medicare automatically qualifies. To access medications through the Medicare GLP-1 Bridge, beneficiaries must be enrolled in an eligible Medicare Part D plan. They must meet prior authorization requirements and meet specific BMI and health condition criteria. Here are the current eligibility categories CMS released. If your BMI was 35 or higher when you started GLP-1 therapy, you may qualify. If your BMI was 30 or higher, you may qualify if you also have conditions like uncontrolled hypertension, chronic kidney disease, or heart failure with preserved ejection fraction. And if your BMI was 27 or higher, qualifying conditions may include prediabetes, previous heart attack, previous stroke, or symptomatic peripheral artery disease. And this next part is really important because I think a lot of people are going to misunderstand this. CMS says the BMI criteria are based on your BMI at the time you initiated GLP-1 therapy, not necessarily your current BMI today. So for example, if somebody started treatment in 2024 with a BMI of 37, but their BMI now is 33 because the medication worked, they could still potentially qualify under the original BMI threshold. That's actually a pretty significant detail. As of right now, CMS says the following medications are included in the Bridge program when prescribed for weight reduction: Wegovy, the Zepbound Quick Pen, and a newer medication I talked about here on the channel called Foundayo. But not every formulation is covered. For example, CMS specifically says the single-dose vial and single-dose pen versions of Zepbound are not included. So formulation details matter here. To access the program, a healthcare provider will need to submit a prescription and a prior authorization request. And unlike normal Part D approvals, these requests go through CMS's central processor, not directly through the patient's prescription drug plan. CMS says additional provider guidance is still coming in spring of 2026, so some operational details are still being finalized. Now, I do want to mention a few limitations because some headlines are making this sound broader than it actually is. First, this is still a temporary demonstration program. Second, not every Medicare beneficiary is eligible. And third, this only applies to certain GLP-1 medications prescribed for obesity-related indications covered under the demonstration. If someone is using a GLP-1 medication for a different FDA-approved indication, like obstructive sleep apnea or cardiovascular risk reduction, that may still go through traditional Medicare Part D processes instead. But stepping back for a second, this is still a pretty major shift. For years, one of the biggest barriers to GLP-1 access has been cost, and CMS extending this program through 2027 signals that Medicare is taking obesity treatment and metabolic disease much more seriously than it has in the past. Whether people personally support GLP-1 medications or not, there's no denying these therapies are changing the conversation around chronic disease management. And of course, I will link the CMS FAQ and official program information down in the description area of this video if you want to read the details directly yourself. And as always, if you found this breakdown helpful, make sure to like, subscribe, and let me know your thoughts in the comments. Do you think Medicare should permanently cover GLP-1 medications for obesity treatment? I would really love to hear your perspectives. Thank you so much for watching today, and I'll see you in the next video.